Is that so? Lin Feng looked at Chief Lu coldly, then turned his gaze to the crowd. Where are the people from the Martial Arts Association? Mr. Lin Feng, I am the representative of the Martial Arts Association. Our Martial Arts Association also knows a little about Yushan's matter. We are deeply regretful about the accident that happened to Yushan. However, please believe in the Martial Arts Association. We will definitely continue to pay attention to this matter until the truth is uncovered. The one who spoke was an old man in his 50s. He had a tall stature and vigorous energy. With a glance, one could tell that he was a high-level martial artist. However, Lin Feng snorted coldly and said, Yushan is a member of your martial arts association, right? He once sought your help, but what did you do? The old man was a little embarrassed. He shook his head and said, Yushan did seek help from our martial artist association before, but that's a different matter. Regarding the matter of the family property, our martial artist association can't do anything either. After all, that's the Yu family's business. We can only provide Yushan the necessary legal aid. Haha. Can't do anything. That's rich. Is this how your martial artist association protects the interests of martial artists? Lin Feng threw his head back and laughed aloud, making the people from the Martial Arts Association feel very awkward. Who's from the government department? I'm the mayor's secretary. Yushan went to court to fight a lawsuit before, no? What was your government's verdict? Due to insufficient evidence, we dismissed Yushan's litigation request. What insufficient evidence? Even if you're blind, you should know who earned the Yu family's money. Yet you lie through your teeth with indifference. Lin Feng pointed out the people from the government and the Martial Artists Association one by one. In the end, the people from the Department of Armed Forces walked up directly, and they were two high-level martial artists. Mr. Lin Feng, according to the Inhuman Agreement, you can't attack ordinary people at will unless they have offended you. However, we saw with our own eyes that no one has offended you. If you act recklessly, the Department of Armed Forces will take the necessary measures against you. Haha, necessary measures. I fight bloody battles at the front line and protect homes on the home front with my life, while you're going to take the necessary measures against me. Lin Feng was very disappointed. Completely so. Swoosh. Lin Feng did not say anything else. Instead, he turned around and stared coldly at Yu Shui. You really deserve to die. Swoosh. Lin Feng made his move. He actually grabbed towards Yu Shui directly. The terrifying force seemed to be compressing the surrounding air completely. The two high-level martial artists from the armed forces felt as if they were suppressed by a tremendous force and could not move at all. Stop! The two high-level martial artists turned pale with fright. Chief Lu also trembled and wanted to draw his gun, but he did not dare to. How could he dare to take out his gun when facing an inhuman expert? Once he took out his gun, an inhuman expert could kill him on the spot for the crime of offense. Chief Lu was not the only one who did not dare to draw his gun. Even the two high-level martial artists from the Department of Armed Forces did not dare to stop him. This was no joke. Even inhuman experts who had signed the Inhuman Agreement had special privileges. Even if they committed crimes, inhuman experts had to be the ones who caught them, not professional martial artists like them. Moreover, even if they tried to stop him, how could they stop an inhuman expert? Thud. Lin Feng grabbed the pale Yu Shui. At this moment, Yu Shui could only bite his lips tightly. His entire body trembled uncontrollably. He was terrified, being captured by an inhuman expert, whose frigid killing intent was almost about to condense into substance, made him feel as if he had fallen into an ice cellar. How could he possibly not be terrified? Lin Feng, my brother died in the fire. It wasn't me, it wasn't... Kneel! Lin Feng did not listen to Yu Shui's explanation at all. With a light kick, Yu Shui's legs broke completely with a cracking sound. Yu Shui screamed in pain. He involuntarily knelt down as he faced Yushan's portrait. Kowtow! Lin Feng's expression was apathetic, as if he could not hear Yu Shui's screams. Yu Shui did not kowtow. Lin Feng casually pressed down, and Yu Shui's forehead landed heavily on the ground. Bang bang bang. Once, twice, thrice. Very soon, Crimson blood seeped out of Yu Shui's forehead. However, Lin Feng still had no intention of stopping. Yu Shui wailed. He still wanted to argue, but the intense pain had already rendered him speechless. The huge hall instantly fell silent. Everyone looked at Yu Shui's miserable appearance in shock. Only at this moment did they realize the severity of the matter, and realize how terrifying the anger of an inhuman expert was. Hence, some people wanted to leave quietly. They did not want to watch the show anymore. After all, Lin Feng looked very dangerous. They did not want to put themselves in danger. However, just as they were about to leave, it was as if Lin Feng knew. With a flash of movement, he directly slapped some people who wanted to leave back. No one can leave. Today is Yu Shan's funeral. All of you must participate. Lin Feng's words made everyone shudder. What was Lin Feng doing? Was he insane? It had to be known that the people who came to attend the funeral today were all elites of Stone City's high society. Even an inhuman expert had no right to detain them. No, we want to leave. You have no right to detain us. Lin Feng, according to the inhuman agreement, you have to abide by the law too. You can't detain us privately. Lin Feng, no matter how angry you are, you have to have evidence. If you think Yu Shui is guilty, find the evidence. What's the point of detaining us? Moreover, you're not the only inhuman in Stone City. If the inhuman experts from the Ministry of Armed Forces and the Government Department arrive, you'll be in trouble. These people were all clamoring to leave, but Lin Feng was unmoved. He only made Yu Shui kowtow hard again and again. Yu Shui wanted to beg for mercy, but he had lost too much blood and was in a daze. How could he still have the strength to speak? Moreover, would begging for mercy do any good now? He could not compromise until the last moment. He had to grit his teeth and endure. He absolutely could not back down on his spiel, or he would really be finished. By this time, a trace of ruthless determination appeared in Yu Shui instead. Buzz. Suddenly, a small spaceship landed outside the Yu family villa. Four martial artists suddenly jumped off the spaceship. Judging from their auras, they were not ordinary martial artists, but metamorphic realm martial artists who had broken the genetic lock. Four metamorphic realm martial artists quickly rushed to the Yu family. Seeing Lin Feng pressing Yu Shui to constantly kowtowing, one of the martial artists shouted, "Lin Feng, stop at once. Your actions have already violated the inhuman agreement. If you don't stop now, we have the right to take you down." The four metamorphic realm martial artists were travel-worn. They had all rushed over from the Ministry of Armed Forces and the Government Department. They were law enforcement officers who specialized in dealing with matters regarding inhuman experts. According to the inhuman agreement, if inhuman experts caused serious damage to society, they had the right to capture or even kill them directly. Seeing that the enforcement team of 4 inhuman experts had arrived, everyone heaved a sigh of relief. With 4 inhuman experts around, even if Lin Feng really went berserk, their lives would probably be saved. Hence, all the upper-class elites complained to the 4 inhuman law enforcement teams one after another, requesting them to deal with Lin Feng seriously, saying that they must not allow Lin Feng to act recklessly, or the impact would be extremely adverse. Silence! Looking at the chaotic scene in front of them, the 4 inhuman experts could not help but roar. They were here to try their best to resolve Lin Feng's anger, not to really capture Lin Feng. If they angered Lin Feng and caused huge casualties, even the law enforcement team could not escape the blame. "Lin Feng, what exactly do you want?" Finally, Lin Feng turned around. He glanced at Yu Shui, who was sprawled on the ground like mud, and said coldly, "What I want is very simple. A debt of blood must be repaid in blood. No, Lin Feng, you absolutely can't kill people privately in Stone City. Inhuman experts signed the inhuman agreement. I think you know the contents of it very well. Even if Yu Shui has committed a crime, evidence must be collected and he must be judged by the court of the government. You can't lynch him," the 4 law enforcement officers said firmly. There was no room for negotiation on this point, because this involved an important question. Could the administrative power of the government restrain inhuman experts? Regarding this question, the government faction, military faction, and the other 3 major factions had all engaged in an intense debate back then. In the end, the 5 major factions managed to come to a compromise. If inhuman experts in any of the 5 major factions, regardless of which, really wantonly slaughtered and destroyed the stability of society, the government had the right to deal with those inhuman experts. Right now, Lin Feng clearly wanted to do it himself. He did not even need evidence. This was breaking the agreement between the 5 major factions and breaking the rules. Therefore, the 4 law enforcement officers were very furious. They were all from law enforcement teams jointly formed by the government and military factions. Naturally, they had to uphold this rule. Evidence, evidence again. Heh. Lin Feng glanced at Yushan's portrait. Back then, Yushan could do nothing about Yushui precisely because he had no evidence, but was it true that there was really no evidence? He's afraid not. Nothing was flawless. Even if Yushui laundered the money, no matter how complicated the money laundering method was, as long as one was focused on investigating, how could they not find any clues? Or rather, how could a useless and incompetent profligate heir like Yushui earn so much money legitimately? If they investigated carefully, could they really not find any clues? Everything was about care. As long as they investigated carefully, thoroughly, and took time to do so, no matter how seamless Yushui's actions were, it could not possibly leave behind no clues at all. But in reality, Yushan went to all the departments. He asked for the Martial Artists Association's help, but no one responded. He went to the court, but was rejected again. What was the reason? It was only because Yushan was no longer a high-level martial artist, and was just a cripple who had lost his legs. No one was willing to waste time and effort to help Yushan for no gain. Up until today, even in Yushan's death, no one stepped forward. Lin Feng was very disappointed and bitterly disillusioned. He could not imagine that this was how the people in the government and the people enjoying peace on the home front treated a martial artist with merits. Yushan must have been disheartened back then, too, and could not even bring himself to seek Lin Feng's help. It was Yushan's girlfriend who secretly requested Lin Feng's help. Corruption, degeneration, and long years of stability had caused many people in the city to completely devolve. They had even forgotten the countless dire beasts lying in wait around them. They seemed to have forgotten who gave them such a stable life. It was those martial artists who put their lives on the line, who fought bloody battles at the front line, who risked themselves against all odds. And this was how they treated a meritorious martial artist who had lost his legs. There's no need for evidence. If I want to kill someone, no one can stop me. Lin Feng's gaze became sharp, and it contained a fearsome killing intent. This killing intent even made the 4 law enforcement officers, who were also metamorphic realm martial artists, palpitate. As expected of martial artists who fought at the front line. Compared to martial artists who enjoyed peace and stability in the city, martial artists who constantly fought with dire beasts at the front line were undoubtedly more terrifying. Lin Feng, your current actions are very dangerous. According to Article 36 of the Inhuman Agreement, we hereby announce your arrest. You think you can do it? Attack! The 4 law enforcement officers made their move. 2 of them were very fast, and there seemed to be wind flowing around their bodies. They approached Lin Feng with only a few steps. These were true metamorphic realm martial artists. It was also Lin Feng's first time fighting metamorphic realm martial artists. Although Lin Feng had suppressed 30 demons back in Dragonlith City, those demons were still very different from true metamorphic realm martial artists. In the past, Lin Feng might have been very willing to spar or interact with some metamorphic realm martial artists. He might even be very willing to see the innate abilities of metamorphic realm martial artists. But right now, Lin Feng was not in the mood. Hence, Lin Feng moved as well. He did not even take a step back. He raised his hand and threw a fierce punch. Moreover, he threw both fists at the same time. One spiral force. Lin Feng did not dodge or defend himself at all. He attacked the 2 metamorphic realm martial artists with both hands. The 2 metamorphic realm martial artists were shocked. Was Lin Feng insane? He was clearly trading injuries for injuries. They were only capturing Lin Feng and had never even thought of injuring him. They would not trade injuries for injuries like this. Moreover, how powerful was Lin Feng? Even from afar, they could still feel the whistling of the air. If it landed a solid hit, they would definitely feel terrible. However, the speed of Lin Feng's punches was very fast, and the explosive power was unparalleled. How could it be so easy for the two of them to stop midway? Boom! SEV, how intense was the battle between the inhuman experts. After a head-on clash between the three of them, it was as if an earthquake had occurred. The ground immediately cracked, and dense spiderweb-like cracks covered the tiles. At the same time, two powerful forces struck Lin Feng. However, his body shook once, and the powerful undying characteristic allowed him to immediately return to his original state, as if he was completely uninjured. On the other hand, a moment unaware caused the two metamorphic realm martial artists to be sent flying by Lin Feng. Even though he had only unleashed a spiral force, how could a force of more than 700 tons be ordinary? The two of them were injured from a single strike. They were not screwworms, and did not have much regenerative ability. Hence, the two of them practically lost their combat ability with a single strike. This was still the result of Lin Feng withdrawing his strength. Otherwise, the two of them would have died from a single strike. HSS. The other two martial artists, who were slightly slower, could not help but gasp. What did they see? Lin Feng had actually defeated two metamorphic realm martial artists in one move. This was despite the fact that Lin Feng had just broken the genetic lock, and his body had not even undergone a complete metamorphosis. How could this be possible? However, the battle occurred in a flash. After Lin Feng defeated two metamorphic realm martial artists with a single move, he suddenly stomped his feet. Boom! The entire villa seemed to be shaking. At the same time, he flew towards the two law enforcement officers like a cannonball. Retreat, pull back, and fight with innate abilities. This Lin Feng should be a strength-type martial artist. His strength is very terrifying. Don't fight head-on. As expected of a metamorphic realm martial artist, he was experienced. Compared to those screwworm demons, although he did not have the undying characteristic, his combat methods were more agile and varied. Just now, Lin Feng had used the unfamiliarity between the two parties to severely injure two metamorphic realm martial artists at once. It would not be so easy to follow the same pattern now. The two law enforcement officers hurriedly retreated and left the villa in the blink of an eye. Lin Feng naturally followed closely and chased after the two of them. Whoosh! In running and pursuing, the three of them rushed out of the villa and arrived above a garden outside the villa. This was a villa area, and the population was not dense. Hence, the three of them stood in the air and faced each other. Lin Feng's stubbornness would do you no good. However, Lin Feng did not say anything. He only stared at the two of them coldly. Humph, do it. The two of them were dignified inhuman experts. Since Lin Feng did not listen to their advice, they would not hold back anymore. Flame! One of the inhuman experts stretched out his hand and opened it. His entire body actually ignited with raging flames, as if he had transformed into a huge flaming man that stretched across the void. The other person was not to be outdone. He extended his hand and pointed. The surrounding void seemed to turn cold all of a sudden. The trees and flowers in the garden were all frozen into ice sculptures at once. These were the innate abilities awakened by the two inhuman experts, fire and ice. These were the most ordinary innate abilities, but also the most practical ones. In particular, the two of them were planning to fight Lin Feng head-on now. They were going to rely on their innate abilities to suppress Lin Feng. Freeze! Suddenly, the martial artist who had awakened his ice innate talent clapped his hands together hard. An icy aura enveloped Lin Feng, as if countless cold auras were surging towards him from all directions. Snap! Lin Feng's legs were frozen. It was difficult for him to even take a step. However, his strength was incredibly powerful. With just a light shake, the ice crystal shattered. At the same time, however, an unending stream of cold air enveloped Lin Feng and continued to freeze him. As time passed, Lin Feng's body was also frozen, and he quickly froze into an ice sculpture. An ice sculpture stretched across the void. It looked so strange. This scene even attracted the attention of many ordinary people in the villa area. How rare was it for flames and ice to fly in midair? However, the people in the villa area were not ignorant. Although inhuman experts rarely displayed powerful abilities in front of the public, everyone knew that only inhuman experts could walk in the air. Without a doubt, these were 3 inhuman experts, and they were clearly fighting a great battle. Some people had even started filming videos and uploaded them online quickly. This video was too special. A battle between inhumans. How rare was it? Hence, the video was quickly disseminated and swiftly became viral on the internet. A battle between 3 inhuman experts is really rare. Moreover, it seems to be in the residential area. Are the inhuman experts not afraid of accidentally injuring others if they dare to fight in the residential area? Those 2 people's clothes seem to be law enforcement officers. The law enforcement officers specialize in targeting inhuman experts who wreak wanton destruction. The people they want to arrest would be an inhuman expert too. Didn't you guys realize that the person they're arresting looks very familiar? Wait a minute, let me think. He seems to be Lin Feng, the hero of Dragonlith City from some time ago. What? It really seems to be Lin Feng. Why would the law enforcement officers clash with Lin Feng? Lin Feng is a hero of humanity who just obtained the Hero of Humanity medal. The internet was already in an uproar. Keywords such as the inhuman expert battle, the law enforcement officers, hero of humanity, Lin Feng, and so on had almost spread throughout the internet. Many people wanted to know the truth. Why would a hero of humanity conflict with the law enforcement team? Things were developing too quickly. After all, Lin Feng's identity was very special. In history, no hero who had obtained the Hero of Humanity medal had ever clashed with the enforcement team. If the situation escalated further, it would likely cause a huge uproar. Hence, the government department was furious. The law enforcement team belonged to the government department. It was a special institution established jointly after consultation by the 5 major factions. Even inhuman experts could not resist the law enforcement team. This was the administrative authority of the government. Hence, the government department immediately sent more inhuman experts. They had to control Lin Feng and stop the situation from escalating further. In the sky above the villa, although Lin Feng was frozen, the 2 law enforcement officers were still very cautious. This was because Lin Feng had not fallen and was still standing in the air. What did this mean? It meant that freezing was useless against Lin Feng. Snap! As expected, not long after, the thick ice crystals immediately shattered, and the ice shards fell to the ground. Lin Feng broke out of the ice without any injuries on his body. This was the other party's innate ability. Unfortunately, it was too weak and could not seal Lin Feng at all. As for the other person's flames, why did he not take the opportunity to attack when Lin Feng was frozen? Actually, it was because they still had reservations. Even now, they did not dare to really kill Lin Feng. Everyone knew how special Lin Feng's identity was. Killing a hero of humanity? That's absurd. It was impossible. However, now that they missed this opportunity, they would not get another. Armor. Lin Feng's gaze was cold. Some cuticle began to appear on his body, quickly enveloping his entire body, forming a layer of armor over his entire body. Sharp bone spikes protruded from his shoulders. This was one of Lin Feng's innate abilities, armor. After Lin Feng's body was covered in a layer of armor, he charged forward again, turning into a shadow. Freeze! The law enforcement officer was unwilling to give up. He prepared to freeze Lin Feng on a large scale again. Unfortunately, how could Lin Feng be frozen now that he had the armor? In fact, the armor destroyed the ice the moment it froze. With the armor, Lin Feng's innate ability could not even restrict Lin Feng's movements. The other metamorphic realm martial artist's expression was grim as he suddenly threw a punch in the air. Boom! It was as if the very air was trembling. A huge ball of flames charged towards Lin Feng in the blink of an eye. Lin Feng paid no heed to it. He raised his hand and punched the flames. The flames dissipated instantly, and the aftershock rushed to Lin Feng's armor, unable to ignite it at all. Lin Feng did not know how strong the limit of his armor was, but it could resist fire and water with ease. Seeing that Lin Feng had already charged over and they could no longer dodge, the two law enforcement officers finally went all out. 99 strands of astral power erupted from their bodies. The power of ice erupted. The power of flames erupted. With the eruption of astral power, their strength increased by several times instantly. With 300 tons, 400 tons, 500 tons, or even 600 tons of strength, it was not inferior to one spiral force from Lin Feng at all. 2 spiral forces. However, Lin Feng did not dodge at all. He only threw a light punch. With just one punch, the surrounding air seemed to have been compressed to the limit as a terrifying fist force erupted with a bang. Boom! 2 spiral forces were equivalent to 700 tons of strength. In addition to the original 350 tons of strength, Lin Feng's punch contained more than 1,000 tons of strength. How powerful was this? The force of the punch wreaked havoc. The 2 law enforcement officers unleashed all their strength. Their bodies were surrounded by ice and flames, but facing Lin Feng's terrifying punch, they were smashed into the ground without even touching Lin Feng. How is this possible? The 2 law enforcement officers created 2 huge pits in the ground as they looked at Lin Feng in disbelief. Between 4 law enforcement officers, they could not even injure Lin Feng. Moreover, they also knew that Lin Feng must have held back. Otherwise, the 4 of them would probably be long dead. Only at this moment did they understand the value of a hero of humanity. It was not exaggerated at all. They accepted their defeat. The people around the villa were also dumbfounded. Looking at the messy garden, it was like an apocalypse. Seeing the destructive power of inhuman experts with their own eyes, the shock in their hearts was incomparable. Yu Shui was also dumbfounded. His legs had been broken. It was impossible for him to take the opportunity to escape now. He could only watch helplessly as Lin Feng, who was like a god of death, walked down from the sky step by step. It's your turn. Apologize before you shone with your death. Lin Feng lifted Yu Shui and threw him in front of Yu Shan's portrait. No one could stop his determination to kill Yu Shui. Yu Shui was truly afraid. He could sense the aura of death clearly. He knew that the man in front of him could kill him with a single slap. At this moment, he felt as if even the pain in his legs was nothing. Don't kill me, don't kill me. Big brother. Big brother isn't dead yet. Like a pig sent to slaughter, Yu Shui's desperate howl echoed in the hall. Yu Shui was sweating profusely. He was really frightened now. Lin Feng's cold gaze had completely shattered his will. Faced with death, how could he still dare to hide anything? What did you say? For the first time, Lin Feng's expression changed drastically. Even his body was trembling. It was due to excitement. Yes, my big brother Yu Shan isn't dead. I never thought of killing him. No matter how profligate and how much of a bastard I am, I never thought of killing him. Yu Shui was already prostrating on the ground, almost bawling. His mental state had completely collapsed. All his calculations and schemes were useless before a killing god like Lin Feng. Inhuman experts were not just a term. Only after truly facing the anger of inhuman experts could one understand how terrifying inhuman experts were. Originally, the upper echelons of elites who came to participate in Yu Shan's funeral also had stunned expressions when they heard Yu Shui's words. Yu Shan wasn't dead? What a joke! However, looking at how Yu Shui was weeping, it did not seem like he was lying. Could it be that everyone had been fooled by Yu Shui? At this moment, there was already an uproar on the internet. A battle between inhuman experts was extremely rare, especially in a city. Moreover, it involved the hero of humanity, Lin Feng. Lin Feng had defeated 4 law enforcement officers in a row by himself. These law enforcement officers were all inhuman experts. In the past, without comparison, no one knew how powerful Lin Feng was as the hero of humanity. But now, with comparison, Lin Feng's ability to easily defeat 4 inhuman experts was very valuable. It was far more direct and shocking than when Lin Feng had suppressed 30 screwworm demons back then. However, this also made some slightly confused. Why was Lin Feng raising such a big ruckus in the city? In particular, Lin Feng had captured an ordinary person. What was he trying to do? The law enforcement officers won't act rashly. If they do, they must be enforcing the law. Could Lin Feng have caused some trouble? Lin Feng looks like he wants to kill someone. His gaze is so terrifying. Even inhuman experts have to abide by the law. Even the hero of humanity can't act however he pleases. That's right. No matter what contributions Lin Feng had, he must abide by the law. What if he injures people by accident by fighting in the city? The comments on the internet began to show signs of being one-sided. However, there was no lack of smart people who immediately retorted. Lin Feng just turned the tide in Dragonlith City and became a hero of humanity. Why would he attack ordinary people for no reason? There must be something deeper going on. That's right. I'm from Stone City. I'm very familiar with the villa area in this video. Today, the Yu family of Stone City is holding a funeral for a martial artist. Ordinary people don't know about the Yu family, but I do know a little. I heard that the two Yu brothers turned against each other for the sake of wealth. The eldest son of the Yu family suddenly died. Is there no hidden story in it? Lin Feng coming here to cause a scene should be related to the death of the eldest son of the Yu family. All kinds of news were flying all over the internet. There were even rumors, and no one could convince the other party. The situation had completely escalated, and many people were paying attention to the development of the situation. If Lin Feng really killed someone in public, no matter the reason, he would be in big trouble. Boom! All of a sudden, the entire ground shook violently, as if the villa was about to collapse. Immediately after, 3 martial artists descended from the sky. Their gazes were cold and resolute, and their bodies emitted an extremely powerful aura. In particular, there was a faint glimmer of astral power on their bodies. Astral power emanated from them. These were peak 3rd level metamorphic realm martial artists, with a total of 9,999 strands of astral power in their bodies. Lin Feng, stop now. The 3 martial artists' eyes were apathetic. Their gazes seemed to be looking down on everyone. Lin Feng held Yu Shui in one hand and turned around to look at the 3 of them. He could feel the powerful pressure coming from the 3 of them. These were definitely not ordinary metamorphic realm martial artists. You want to stop me too? We're not stopping you. We want you to pull back from the brink. As long as you release him and return with us for investigation, things will naturally settle down. These 3 people were not ordinary people either. They were the vice captains of the law enforcement team in Stone City. They could be considered to have great authority and were truly top figures in Stone City. Every single one of them was a peak 3rd level metamorphic realm expert. Lin Feng had caused such a huge commotion this time. Their mission was to settle this matter as soon as possible and control Lin Feng, so that the situation would not escalate further. Lin Feng glanced at Yu Shui and said coldly, Yu Shan isn't dead. I'm bringing him to save Yu Shan. Yu Shan isn't dead? The 3 of them roughly understood the situation. Wasn't Lin Feng avenging Yu Shan's death? However, after knowing that Yu Shan was not dead, the 3 of them heaved a sigh of relief. Perhaps this was the best outcome. If Yu Shan was not dead, Lin Feng's anger would be appeased. Hence, the 3 of them continued, Put him down and we'll save Yu Shan. I don't trust you. Lin Feng's words made the 3 of them very angry. They were dignified 3rd level metamorphic realm martial artists, presiding over a region and wielding great authority. When had they ever been so passive? Now, they were even directly accused of being untrustworthy. Whether you trust us or not, you must come with us. Do you know how much impact your recklessness has caused? It's not that I've caused such a huge impact, but that your inaction has caused such a huge impact. I will take him, and I will save Yu Shan by my own hands. No one will stop me. Lin Feng's tone was firm. Even though the auras of the 3 people were very terrifying, he still walked forward resolutely. Whoosh! The 3 of them blocked in front of Lin Feng. The imposing aura on their bodies was unleashed without restraint. Even Lin Feng felt as if he was suffocating from the pressure. You want to attack me? It's our duty. Come back with us. The 3 of them did not give in either. Lin Feng was silent for a while, then took out an exquisite medal from his pocket and hung it on his chest. I'm a hero. The dazzling gold medal was so eye-catching that everyone was attracted by it. Hero of Humanity medal? The three metamorphic realm martial artists looked at each other and fell silent. The Hero of Humanity medal was awarded to heroes of humanity. They were people who had made special contributions to humanity and had all kinds of privileges. In history, there had never been a situation where the wielder of the Hero of Humanity medal fought with the police. As for fighting, the moment the three of them saw the Hero of Humanity medal, they completely lost any intention of fighting. That's absurd. Attack a martial artist wearing the Hero of Humanity medal would be a slap in the face to the 9 sages. The Hero of Humanity medal could only be awarded with the approval of the 9 sages. How could such a person be guilty? Even if they were guilty, it was definitely not up to the law enforcement team to decide. First, the 9 sages had to retract the Hero of Humanity medal, and only then could the complicated trial procedure occur. Was Lin Feng guilty? It was difficult to say for the current situation. Lin Feng did not kill anyone. Even when he went against the law enforcement officers, he had only injured them. What right did they have to determine that Lin Feng was guilty? The three of them did not dare to stop him. They could only watch as Lin Feng grabbed Yu Shui and left the villa. Follow them and stop anyone from approaching. The three of them did not dare to delay. Since they could not stop Lin Feng, they could only follow him and prevent Lin Feng from doing anything crazy. Lin Feng grabbed Yu Shui and left, followed by the 3 vice-captains of the law enforcement team. The people who had come to attend the funeral initially wanted to follow and watch the spectacle. After all, not everyone could see this kind of spectacle. However, they were not inhumans and could not keep up with the speed of Lin Feng and the others at all, so they could only give up. However, what happened today would definitely become the matter with the greatest impact on Stone City in the coming period of time. Hey, Yushan is actually alive. This is going to be interesting. Yushan actually has a friend in an inhuman expert like Lin Feng. Moreover, Lin Feng came all the way here and didn't hesitate to fall out with the law enforcement team. They are not ordinary friends. No matter what, we can't provoke the Yu family in the future. Most of the people just held the attitude of watching a show. After all, this matter had nothing to do with them. However, those from the government, the armed forces, the military, the martial arts association, and so on no longer had the face to continue staying here. They had been rendered speechless by Lin Feng's rebukes previously and lost all their face. However, the one who was truly uneasy was Zhang Hui, who was hidden in the clubhouse. Crack. Zhang Hui crushed the wine glass in his hand. Through some informants, he naturally learned about everything that happened in the Yu family's villa. Everything had initially gone according to his expectations. Lin Feng had a conflict with the law enforcement team, and even fought them. Towards the end, Lin Feng was also prepared to kill Yu Shui. As long as Yu Shui died, he would be safe. But who would have thought that Yu Shui did not kill Yushan? Fool. Fool to the extreme. Zhang Hui was furious, but at the same time he was also terrified. Yushan was not dead, and neither was Yu Shui. All his plans had come to naught. Once Lin Feng and Yushan learned that he was the one behind the scenes, how could he possibly survive? No, I have to run. Zhang Hui immediately decided that he was prepared to run. But where to was the problem. If he fled overseas now, he might have a chance of survival, but he would have to live in the dark from now on. He was not a martial artist and might simply die upon encountering any accidents. After contemplating things over, Zhang Hui felt that he could not run. If he did, he would really be finished. I can't run. I absolutely can't fall into Lin Feng's hands. That's right. I'll go home and tell father everything. I'll tell him everything truthfully. I didn't kill anyone. Everything was actually committed by Yu Shui. Even if I'm captured, I'll only be jailed. As long as the family forgives me, it's just being jailed for a few years. I'll still be able to enjoy the protection of the Zhang family when I come out. Zhang Hui was used to being a young master. He did not want to die, let alone abscond in fear. For this, he would even rather go to jail. However, he knew very well that while he was willing to go to jail, he absolutely could not fall into Lin Feng's hands. Otherwise, if Lin Feng killed him in a fit of anger, there was nothing he could do. At this moment, only the Zhang family could help him. As for whether the Zhang family would hand him over to Lin Feng, Zhang Hui thought about it for a long time and felt that it shouldn't be the case. The two inhuman experts from the Zhang family were both inhumans of the government faction. They would only hand him over to the police and the government to be judged according to the law. If they handed him over to Lin Feng for Lin Feng to execute privately, not only would the two inhuman Zhang family members lose face, they would also violate the rules agreed upon by the government and the other four factions. Only by staying alive could there be a chance to turn everything around. At this thought, Zhang Hui made a prompt decision. He immediately left the clubhouse and rushed towards the Zhang family. He knew very well that he must come clean when he returned this time. If he wanted to survive, he must not conceal anything anymore. This is the place? When Lin Feng brought Yu Shui to an abandoned factory, there were still a few people outside who were very surprised to see Lin Feng and the others descend from the sky. However, Lin Feng ignored them. Moreover, there were 3 inhuman experts with gloomy expressions following them, so they did not cause any trouble. Yu Shui said in a trembling voice, "Yes, this is the place. I really didn't kill Big Brother. Now you know he's your big brother." Lin Feng sneered. Although he had also lived in an affluent family since he was young, and had many brothers in the family, nothing like brothers turning against each other for wealth had ever happened. Be it his eldest brother, second brother, or younger sister, all of them cared about him very much. Their family was also harmonious. For the sake of the Lin family, second brother was willing to train in the army. For the sake of the Lin family, his eldest brother was willing to do everything he could to help his second brother gain a foothold in the army. The warm and harmonious scene in the Lin family was miles better than the scheming against Yushan by the second son of the Yu family, now standing before him. There was more than goodness in this world, but also evil. The environment of the abandoned factory was a little harsh. It had rained a few days ago, so the road was covered in mud. Lin Feng held Yu Shui in one hand and walked through the abandoned workshops of the factory to the row of abandoned warehouses behind the factory. "Big Brother is inside," Yu Shui said dejectedly. He now knew that he was finished. Lin Feng did not hesitate any longer. He immediately strode forward and arrived in front of a locked warehouse. He could not even wait for Yu Shui to take out the key. Instead, he threw a punch. Boom! The warehouse doors were shattered. Amidst the dust, Lin Feng vaguely saw a figure, and there was a faint sound of panic. Whoosh! After Lin Feng rushed into the warehouse, he smelled a pungent scent of blood and some medicine. There was a huge bed in the warehouse and even simple tables and chairs. There was also some food residue in the abandoned trash can beside it. In particular, beside the bed was a young woman, who was looking at the doors of the warehouse in a panic. "You, Lin Feng." When the young woman saw Lin Feng, she seemed to have recognized him, and an elated expression appeared on her face. Lin Feng glanced at the young woman and said hesitantly, "You're Yushan's girlfriend? You sent me a message back then?" "Yes, my name is Xianxia. You're finally here. Quick, save Yushan." "What happened to Yushan?" Lin Feng rushed to the bed and found Yushan unconscious. There were injuries on his body, but they were all bandaged. Xianxia's face was already covered in tears. She looked at Yu Shui hatefully and said, "Yu Shui ordered some people to beat Yushan up and locked us here. They only gave us some medicine and some gauze. Yushan fell unconscious last night and hasn't woken up until now." Lin Feng stared coldly at Yu Shui, frightening Yu Shui. Hence, he hurriedly said, "I didn't want to do this either, but I didn't want to kill Big Brother, nor did I want to be discovered. So this is all I can provide. Big Brother is a martial artist. His physique can't be so weak, right?" Yu Shui was also a little afraid now. Even though he had never really thought of killing Yushan in his heart, for Yushan was his big brother no matter what, if Yushan died because of him, this debt would definitely be settled on him. "Don't worry. Let me take a look first." Lin Feng turned around and carefully observed Yushan on the bed. Although Yushan was unconscious, he did not lose much blood, and all the bleeding had been staunched. More importantly, Lin Feng could vaguely feel that the life force in Yushan's body was gradually increasing. The essence in his body was even surging continuously, as if it was boiling. At the same time, Yushan's life force felt as if it was thriving. Lin Feng was all too familiar with this feeling. This was the characteristic of someone breaking the genetic lock and their body undergoing metamorphosis. As early as decades ago, the Zhang family of Stone City had already been one of the most prestigious families in Stone City. The reason was very simple. 2 generations of Zhang family martial artists had broken the genetic lock and become inhuman. Although the 3rd and 4th generations were somewhat disappointing and could not break the genetic lock, they had each entered the political and business worlds respectively. They thrived there and held immense power. Everyone knew that the Zhang family was one of the top families in Stone City. The Zhang family had already been passed down to the 4th generation. Perhaps as the Zhang family had been powerful for too long, there were no outstanding figures in the 4th generation. Those who were slightly more outstanding were at most qualified successors. As for breaking the genetic lock, that was even more out of the question. Be it the 3rd or 4th generation, none of them seemed to have any natural talent in martial arts. Although the 3rd and 4th generations of the Zhang family seemed to be in decline, but as long as the 2 inhuman experts of the Zhang family were still around, who would dare to underestimate the Zhang family? Slap. In the Zhang family's villa, Zhang Tianlong slapped Zhang Hui hard on the face. The force of the slap made Zhang Hui stagger, and his face immediately swelled. However, Zhang Hui did not say a word. He only lowered his head. He knew that he could only let his father vent his anger now. Otherwise, he would not even be able to keep his life. Bastard! You damned bastard! Why didn't you tell me about such an important matter earlier? Zhang Tianlong was truly furious. He was the most outstanding figure of the 3rd generation of the Zhang family, and a tycoon of Stone City's business world. Relying on the influence of the 2 inhuman experts in the Zhang family, he had managed the Zhang family to flourish. Although it couldn't be considered pioneering, he hadn't made any mistakes over the years. That lasted until today, when his 4th son, Zhang Hui, came to apologize to him. When he heard everything Zhang Hui said, his mind immediately went blank. Even though he was the tycoon of Stone City and could shake the entire city with a gesture, after hearing Zhang Hui's words, he even wished he could slap Zhang Hui to death. Zhang Hui, that bastard, could have just been a profligate son. The Zhang family did not mind providing for a few more profligate descendants, but he did not expect Zhang Hui to cause him so much trouble. He actually dared to plot against Lin Feng, an inhuman expert and the hero of humanity who was at the height of fame recently. How could Zhang Tianlong not be furious about it? It was an inhuman expert. How could ordinary people scheme against an inhuman expert? Moreover, if he wanted to scheme, he should at least have kept it from others. But what did Zhang Hui do? He had overstepped so far that it was already discovered by Lin Feng, and had no choice but to seek his help after the matter was exposed. Zhang Tianlong smacked his forehead. He was very angry. Thinking about everything Zhang Hui had done, Zhang Tianlong shook his head. He did not expect his son, Zhang Hui, who he usually did not pay much attention to be so ruthless. Yet, although he was sufficiently ruthless, he did things without consideration and left behind many loose ends. You sure are ruthless. You want Yu Shui to be the scapegoat? Didn't you think that Yu Shui would sell you out at the last minute? Yu Shui isn't dead now. He didn't kill his big brother, and what you've done has been exposed. Being ruthless is a good trait, but you're too rash when executing things. Dad, I don't want to die. Zhang Hui knelt on the ground. He was truly afraid now. He had thought that everything he did previously was perfect, yet there were flaws everywhere. Humph. Now you know fear? When you formulated the nefarious plan, why didn't you think of the consequences? You underestimate the influence of inhuman experts. Even if Yu Shui died, do you think you'd be safe? Zhang Tianlong was really infuriated. It wasn't because Zhang Hui was too ruthless, but because he felt that Zhang Hui was too foolish and ignorant. How could an inhuman expert be so easily deceived? Never mind how the plan was riddled with loopholes to begin with, he actually wanted to coerce an inhuman expert. That was absurd. Even if Yu Shui died, as long as Lin Feng wanted to, he'd still have traced things to Zhang Hui. As for evidence, did inhuman experts need evidence? All they needed was a bit of suspicion. Evidence was for ordinary people. Zhang Hui thought that Yu Shui was foolish, but in reality, Zhang Tianlong thought that Zhang Hui was even more foolish. Dad, save me. I don't want to die. Zhang Hui begged desperately. At this moment, there was none of the prestige of young Master Zhang left to him. Zhang Tianlong's expression darkened. He looked at Zhang Hui. After all, he was his son. No matter how little he valued Zhang Hui, he couldn't just watch Zhang Hui die. Moreover, this matter had already vaguely exceeded the scope of a personal grudge. Zhang Hui, what you've done is too foolish. I won't harbor you either. However, you didn't directly attack Yushan when dealing with him. Moreover, Yushan isn't dead. At most, you're just an instigator. However, if Lin Feng insists on it, you'll be in trouble. I think you'd better turn yourself in. According to the current law, you didn't kill anyone, so your crime isn't punishable by death. At most, you'll be jailed. After the situation has settled, I can still use the power of the family to get you out. Do you understand? Zhang Tianlong knew that it would be very difficult to protect Zhang Hui. The only way was to get Zhang Hui to surrender himself. That way, Zhang Hui would at most face some jail term. If he fell into Lin Feng's hands, that would mean dying. Zhang Hui also understood the difference, so he hurriedly nodded and said, I'm willing to follow the family's arrangements. All right, then this matter is settled. I'll contact your grandfather first. We have to let them know about such an important matter. Lin Feng caused a scene in Stone City and even fought with the law enforcement team. He probably won't let the matter rest. Your grandfather will need to step in. Dad, what if Lin Feng insists on killing me? Zhang Hui had learned how savage Lin Feng's performance in the Yu family was. He had defeated 4 law enforcement officers directly and broken Yu Shui's legs. He was afraid that Lin Feng would insist on killing him too. That would mean trouble. A sharp glint flashed across Zhang Tianlong's eyes. Humph, what do you know? At this point, do you think this matter is just between Lin Feng and the Yu family? It's not that simple anymore. Even if we're willing to hand you over for Lin Feng to deal with, the government will definitely not agree to it. This concerns the administrative authority of the government faction. The government faction paid such a huge price back then to obtain it. How can they be willing to allow the government faction to lose its authority for a mere Lin Feng? Ha! Zhang Hui's mouth fell open. He did not understand what Zhang Tianlong was saying at all. Zhang Tianlong did not explain either. This involved the struggle between the 5 major factions. How could a profligate son like Zhang Hui understand the extent of the implications? However, Zhang Tianlong knew that this small matter had already gotten on the most sensitive nerve of the government faction. If Lin Feng insisted on killing Zhang Hui or Yu Shui, it would be a violation of the government faction's administrative rights. The government faction could not tolerate such behavior no matter what. However, even though he knew this, he still had to report this matter to the 2 inhuman experts of the Zhang family. The 2 inhuman experts of the Zhang family had joined the government faction. When the time came, they could also rely on the government faction. Perhaps even Lin Feng did not know that his feat in Stone City had already been involved in the vortex of power games between the 5 major factions. Although Yu Shui was unconscious, his life force was very strong. His cells were constantly dividing and dying. This required a long process. Lin Feng, can Yushan still be saved? Chang, she had a worried look on her face. She was really afraid that Yushan would not wake up after sleeping like this. Lin Feng revealed a rare smile and said, Don't worry. Yushan's condition is very good. It may even be possible for his legs to recover. What? Changshi's face was filled with confusion. Even Yu Shui found it baffling. Yushan had already become like this. Could Lin Feng be joking? If I'm not wrong, Lin Feng should have already broken the genetic lock. Right now, his body is undergoing metamorphosis. Originally, Yushan's comprehensive ability was very strong. He should have broken the genetic lock long ago. Unexpectedly, by a freak combination of factors, he broke the genetic lock instead from experiencing these hardships after returning to Stone City. Lin Feng was genuinely happy. He and Yushan had gone through life-or-death situations together. If Shui Yuanshang and Gao Tianxi were alive, they might have broken the genetic lock as well. Although Lin Feng had saved Yushan's life back then, Yushan had lost his legs. He was very dispirited from the ups and downs. Later, he met Xianxia and reignited the hope of life again. Yet he was betrayed by his family. If it were anyone else, they would probably be defeated by this string of setbacks and give up entirely. Yushan persevered and broke the genetic lock in these painful and desperate straits. Originally, the genetic lock required some luck or a strong will to break. Perhaps meeting Chang, she had given Yushan the strong will that allowed him to break the genetic lock. Breaking the genetic lock? Really? Then why isn't Yushan awake yet? Chang, she was overjoyed. She never expected Yushan would break the genetic lock, and was very excited. At the side, Yushui, who had lost both his legs, also stopped moaning in pain. He naturally heard Lin Feng's words and became a little stunned. Yushan had actually broken the genetic lock? This was something that Yushui would never have dreamed of. No matter how outstanding Yushan was in the past, he showed no signs of breaking the genetic lock. Becoming an inhuman expert would allow the entire Yu family to completely prosper. But through his foolish and greedy actions, he had ruined it all. Yushui's lips parted. He wanted to say something, but hesitated. In the end, he lowered his head, his face ashen. Lin Feng knew Yushan's current condition very well. Normally, one would not fall unconscious after breaking the genetic lock. However, it might be because Yushan was injured previously, which was coupled with his grief and indignation. Moreover, breaking the genetic lock and metamorphosing his body also required a large amount of energy. Back then, Lin Feng had used a large amount of nutrient solutions, which was why he could undergo metamorphosis so quickly. Fortunately, Lin Feng also carried some nutrient solutions. It was not much, but it was enough to wake Yushan up. Lin Feng took out a few bottles of nutrient solutions and poured them into Yushan's mouth. As the nutrient solutions entered his body, Yushan's metamorphosis speed increased. One could clearly see that his wounds were rapidly scarring and falling off. His originally somewhat tanned skin had also changed. Even his figure had become slightly stronger. This was just the initial metamorphosis. In the future, after completing the metamorphosis, Yushan's entire being would undergo a huge change. Moreover, the most critical thing was Yushan's legs. Lin Feng had done above-knee amputations, amputating him at both thighs. With the current technology, perhaps artificial limbs could be installed, but what was the use? Only by breaking the genetic lock could Yushan's legs regrow. This was the benefit of genetic restructuring, and something that modern technology could not do. As the nutrient solution Lin Feng poured into Yushan gradually took effect, new flesh began to grow on Yushan's legs. The cells continued to divide, die, and divide. Bones and flesh also gradually grew out of Yushan's legs. This scene was very miraculous. How lucky was it to be able to see an inhuman expert undergo metamorphosis and genetic restructuring. Beside him, Chang, she stared intently at Yushan. With her taking care of Yushan at the side, Lin Feng was also very at ease. From the looks of it, it might take some time for Yushan's legs to regrow. Moreover, Yushan was unconscious, so Lin Feng could only wait silently. While waiting, Lin Feng discovered that the 3 vice-captains of the enforcement team were also guarding the gates tightly. It seemed like they did not leave a single step. This made Lin Feng frown. Actually, he had never thought of fighting with the law enforcement team in Stone City, especially since these 3 people were very strong. Even 1 against 1, Lin Feng might not be their match. Lin Feng was very unfamiliar with these metamorphic realm martial artists from the law enforcement team. He had never come into contact with them in Central Sea before. They seemed to be affiliated with the government faction. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Lin Feng took out his communicator and entered the martial domain network directly through it. He found the forum. He wanted to gather some information regarding the government faction and the law enforcement team's metamorphic realm martial artists. The martial domain network was open to all 5 major factions, and so was the forum of the martial domain network. There were all kinds of forces interwoven inside. Of course, the martial domain forum was also divided into many sections, such as the academic faction section, the government faction section, and so on. However, they were all open, and visible to everyone who had the authority to enter the Martial Domain Forum. Lin Feng searched for the keywords government faction and law enforcement team directly and found numerous posts. Among them were some posts that specially introduced the government faction and the law enforcement team. Lin Feng checked carefully. The government faction's establishment of the enforcement team was actually to maintain the administrative rights of the government faction. Other factions also had similar organizations. The members of the law enforcement team must be metamorphic realm martial artists. Every important city would have a legate, and it had to be a divine realm expert who had undergone 2 life transitions. However, when Lin Feng was browsing through the posts, he accidentally discovered some flame wars between the other 4 major factions and the enforcement team of the government faction. Moreover, it was not just one post, but many. He was also very interested, so he clicked on them one by one to view them in detail. However, this viewing made Lin Feng's expression gradually turn cold. The metamorphic realm martial artists of the 5 major factions disliked each other and were also competing with each other. This was very normal. Overall, however, they were still very united. There was only one reason for their unity, and that was the dire beasts. There were powerful dire beasts prowling in wait around humanity. Humans were not the masters of this world. All the metamorphic realm martial artists were fighting with dire beasts at the front line, working hard to open up a survival space for humans. However, only martial artists from the government faction were exceptions. This was because the government faction had administrative rights. All metamorphic realm martial artists who joined the government faction could apply to be stationed in various major cities. For example, joining the law enforcement team was relatively common. They helped government factions manage the entire human society. However, why would human society need so many inhuman experts to manage it? Although the government faction also had frontline bases, there were very few inhuman experts there. Almost most metamorphic realm martial artists of the government faction had never gone to the battlefield. They merely hid at the back, exercising ridiculous administrative rights. In reality, they were avoiding war and dire beasts. Therefore, the metamorphic realm martial artists of the government faction were all called cowards by the martial artists of the other 4 major factions. They simply looked down on the martial artists of the government faction, and even often initiated flame wars. The martial artists of the 4 major factions risked their lives at the front line, while the martial artists of the government faction enjoyed a pleasant and comfortable life in the human cities at the home front. Most importantly, the privileges of some inhuman experts could also be enjoyed by inhuman experts from government faction, who had never fought at the front line. Countless martial artists risked their lives at the front line, while their families and friends were even under the jurisdiction and oppression of those cowardly martial artists from government faction. For example, Yushan was injured at the front line and returned to Stone City from there. When he needed help, where were the martial artists from the government faction? They did not care at all, but still enjoyed all sorts of privileges. Some even assisted the wicked. Lin Feng exited the Martial Domain Network. He stared coldly at the 3 law enforcement officers outside the door with a look of icy apathy. Outside the warehouse, the 3 vice captains of the law enforcement team sat cross-legged. They had also seen the situation in the warehouse clearly. With their insight, they could naturally tell at a glance that Yushan was not dead and had benefited from a disaster. He had broken the genetic lock and was currently in the metamorphosis stage. This made the 3 of them heave a sigh of relief at the same time. It was truly fortunate that Yushan was not dead. Otherwise, Lin Feng would definitely not let the matter rest. If that happened, even the 3 of them would be in a difficult position. What a tough job we got this time. Captain Xia, what did Lord Legate say? They had just reported the situation to the Legate. The Legate not just oversaw a region, but was also the leader of the law enforcement team. However, he did not usually manage the law enforcement team, directly left its management to the 3 vice captains. Now that such a major incident had occurred, they naturally wanted to report it to the Legate. Captain Xie was in the inner circles of the Legate. He was actually also the leader to the 3 of them. He took a look at the situation in the warehouse and said in a low voice, "Originally, it was just a small matter. The situation escalated because Lin Feng was unwilling to let the matter rest. Lord Legate asked us to watch Lin Feng closely and try our best not to clash with Lin Feng. Now that Yushan is not dead and has broken the genetic lock, I believe that Lin Feng would let the matter rest now. The other two also nodded. Now that Yushan could wake up, Lin Feng would not go ballistic. Facing a hero of humanity like Lin Feng actually put them under a lot of pressure too. Moreover, Lin Feng was a martial artist from the academic faction. There was still the massive powerhouse that was the academic faction behind Lin Feng. Unless it was absolutely necessary, they did not want to provoke Lin Feng either. Lin Feng retracted his gaze. He no longer had any positive feelings towards the martial artists from the government faction. Look at Yushan's struggles. Did martial artists who risked their lives at the front line deserve to end up like this? He's awake, Yushan's awake. Chang Shi, who had been protecting Yushan, saw Yushan's entire body tremble before his legs grew faster. In the blink of an eye, he actually recovered completely, and Yushan's eyes slowly opened. Yushan, Lin Feng. The two of them looked at each other and actually smiled. They comprehended everything without speaking. Yushan naturally knew that Lin Feng had already done his best to have arrived at Stone City so quickly. Yushan, how do you feel? Lin Feng asked with a smile. Very good. It's as if my body is becoming stronger at every moment. I've never felt so powerful. Is this what breaking the genetic lock is like? Yushan glanced at his hands, then slowly stood up from the bed. His legs were very long, and his entire physique was much stronger than before. Be it his physical condition or mental state, they were worlds apart from before. You're still in the midst of metamorphosis. When the metamorphosis is over, you'll be even stronger. Yushan looked at Lin Feng with gratitude in his eyes. Beside him, Chang Shi also held his hands tightly. In his most difficult and dangerous moment, only Chang Shi was still by his side. Thank you, Xiaoxi. I think I heard your voice in the darkness. You gave me strength. You gave me the determination to break the genetic lock. Chang Shi was already sobbing uncontrollably and could not speak at all. She could only hug Yushan tightly. Big brother, it's my fault. Everything is my fault. Suddenly, Yushui spoke. His current state was very miserable. His legs were broken by Lin Feng, and he could only lie on the ground, enduring intense pain. Yushan glanced at Yushui with a complicated look in his eyes. He naturally hated Yushui. If not for Yushui, he and Chang Shi wouldn't go through such fear, not to mention there would never have been such a huge mess. However, Yushui did not really want to kill him. He had not reached the point of heartless cruelty. It's just that there was no longer any familial love left in Yushan's heart. Seeing Yushan's indifferent expression, Lin Feng could roughly guess what Yushan was thinking. This might be the best outcome. From today onwards, the Yu family would no longer have Yushan, and Yushan would no longer have anything to do with the Yu family. However, Lin Feng did not intend to end this matter just like that. Yushui, tell me, who else is behind you? Lin Feng could also tell now that Yushui had originally wanted to kill Yushan. Due to a fit of conscience or perhaps the bind of familial ties, he didn't. No matter the reason, there must be someone else behind Yushui. Otherwise, Yushui wouldn't be so contradictory. He had kidnapped Yushan, but did not kill him. I'll tell you everything. It's Zhang Hui. This is all Zhang Hui's method. At this moment, Yushui naturally wouldn't conceal anything anymore. He revealed how he knew Zhang Hui, how Zhang Hui instigated him to scheme for Yushan's assets, and even wanted him to kill Yushan in the end. Zhang Hui. Yushan's gaze was very cold, and there was even a trace of cold killing intent emanating from his body. Zhang Hui must die. Lin Feng looked at Yushan, then stood up and said calmly, Yushan, let's go meet this Zhang Hui. He's quite the interesting guy. Not only does he want to kill you, he also plotted against me. Yushan was not the only one who had killing intent. Lin Feng's heart was also boiling with killing intent. Yushui was an incapable idiot, while Zhang Hui was ruthless. If Yushui had not held on to some affection to his older brother, Yushan, and really killed him, the consequences would be unthinkable. Moreover, Lin Feng had thought it through. Zhang Hui was using Yu Shui to do his dirty work, and he wanted to push everything onto Yu Shui. This Zhang Hui was actually the real culprit, the eminent Zhang family of Stone City. A cold smile appeared on Yu Shan's lips. What's there to fear about Inhumans in 2 generations? Lin Feng took a step forward. Haha, brother Lin. The 2 of us can fight alongside each other again. At this moment, Yu Shan also felt unbridled and assured. The 2 of them walked out of the warehouse together. The 3 vice captains of the law enforcement team immediately stood up. Lin Feng, Yu Shan, this matter ends here. We will give you a resolution regarding Yu Shui. Resolution? Of course there must be a resolution. We'll leave Yu Shui to you people. You have to protect Chang Shi too. Lin Feng pointed at Yu Shui and Chang Shi in the warehouse. What are you 2 going to do? The 3 of them also felt that something was amiss and hurriedly asked. We're going to kill someone, of course. What? Kill someone? The 3 vice captains' faces were ashen. They did not know what Yu Shui had said in the warehouse. Could it be that someone else was involved? At this thought, Captain Xie immediately shouted, Don't be rash. If there's anything, it should be trialed by law. Boom. The 2 of them did not pay any attention to him. They shot into the sky like cannonballs. Captain Xie gritted his teeth and said to one of the vice captains, Protect Yu Shui and that woman. The 2 of us will follow them. We must stop them. Something big is going to happen. Initially, he thought that this matter would be resolved as long as Yu Shan was alive. He did not expect it to become even more troublesome. Captain Xie had clearly sensed the killing intent from Lin Feng and Yu Shan just now, which made his heart palpitate. With such killing intent, if they really kill someone in public in Stone City, this matter would blow up completely. Phew! With a whistling wind, 2 figures tore through the sky at an extremely fast speed, flying straight towards the villa district where the Zhang family was. Lin Feng and Yu Shan flew at full speed. Initially, Lin Feng wanted to slow down a little and wait for Yu Shan. After all, Yu Shan had just broken the genetic lock, and his body's extent of metamorphosis was far inferior to Lin Feng's. However, what did Lin Feng see? Even though he was flying at full speed, he could not catch up to Yu Shan. In the end, Yu Shan was the one who slowed down and waited for Lin Feng. Yu Shan also found it very strange. I think I can feel the power of the wind. Could it be an awakened innate ability? Yu Shan, your innate ability is very likely related to the wind. As expected, with Lin Feng's reminder, Yu Shan could control the power of the wind more freely. Moreover, with the power of the wind, his speed became much faster. In terms of speed, Lin Feng was naturally far inferior to Yu Shan. His speed was very ordinary among inhuman experts. Soon, the 2 of them saw a large villa area below. They had already found the exact location of the Zhang family, so they flew down abruptly. Boom! The 2 of them descended from the sky and landed in front of the Zhang family villa. Lin Feng and Yu Shan looked at each other, their eyes filled with battle intent. They recalled how, on the decisive battlefield, the few people who were originally strangers had entrusted their lives to each other. If Shui Yuanshang and Gao Tianxi were alive, they might have broken the genetic lock too. Yu Shan lamented. If they were alive, they would definitely come and fight alongside us. Lin Feng laughed. Life or death friendships on the battlefield were the strongest. There was no entanglement of interests there or no mutual deception. Being able to entrust their lives to each other made for the strongest friendship of all. That's right. They're dead after all. Only the 2 of us are left. Today, we can fight alongside each other again. Zhang Hui must die. Lin Feng and Yu Shan threw their heads back and laughed aloud. At the same time, they stomped their feet and flew towards the Zhang family's luxurious villa like cannonballs. Stop! It's all a misunderstanding. Suddenly, 2 figures rushed out of the villa. Their expressions were solemn. With a wave of their hands, a water screen appeared in midair, blocking Lin Feng and Yu Shan's path. Break! Lin Feng had no intention of stopping at all. He threw a punch and did not even unleash the spiral force. He merely used the strength of his physical body to blast open the water curtain. How could a mere water-type innate ability resist Lin Feng's terrifying strength? The ones who attacked were the two Inhumans from the Zhang family. They had also received the news early on and rushed back to the Zhang family. They also contacted the police and asked Zhang Hui to turn himself in. Seeing Lin Feng and Yushan charge over one of the Inhuman experts, probably the second generation of Inhuman from the Zhang family, shouted, "Lin Feng, Zhang Hui has already turned himself in. The police have already arrested Zhang Hui. What else do you want to do?" Lin Feng and Yushan could not help but stop. They did see many police officers walking out of the Zhang family's villa, led by Chief Lu, who had participated in Yu Shan's funeral at the Yu family's villa. Chief Lu personally handcuffed a young man and said loudly to Lin Feng, "Mr. Lin Feng, Zhang Hui has already turned himself in at our police station. We have already arrested him. Please be assured that we will punish Zhang Hui severely according to the law." Punish Zhang Hui severely? Punish severely how? Haha, will you actually sentence Zhang Hui to death? It's just a few years in jail before they get Zhang Hui out. Am I right? You people have miscalculated. Zhang Hui must die today. Lin Feng sneered. Of course he knew what the Zhang family was scheming. Hence, he could not let Zhang Hui off. Zhang Hui was the main culprit. He had to die. Chief Lu frowned. He was not an Inhuman expert. He only followed the orders from above. Great-grandfather, I've already turned myself in. I'm willing to accept the trial of the law. Great-grandfather, save me. Zhang Hui was also afraid. Looking at Lin Feng and Yushan, it seemed like they would not rest until he was dead. Zhang Hui's great-grandfather was the first Inhuman of the Zhang family. People called him Elder Zhang. He was about 100 years old, and was the true mainstay of the Zhang family. Elder Zhang glanced at Lin Feng, narrowed his eyes and said, "Lin Feng, you've gone overboard. No matter what Zhang Hui did wrong, it should be trialed by law. Are you trying to lynch him?" Heh! Lin Feng stared coldly at the Inhumans from 2 generations of the Zhang family and suddenly laughed coldly. "What are you laughing about?" "I'm laughing at how you've been at ease for too long. Have you ever been on the battlefield?" "What do you mean?" Elder Zhang frowned, not knowing what Lin Feng wanted to say. "You've never been on the battlefield. You hide at the back and enjoy all kinds of privileges. Do you know how frontline martial artists fight dire beasts with their lives? Do you know what price we paid in mortal circumstances? Do you know the warmth of the blood spilled by frontline martial artists? Do you know how bitterly disappointed we are when Zhang Hui plotted against a martial artist who fought on the front line, and even tried to kill him? Haha, you don't know anything. You preach about righteousness and use the law to firmly protect your privileges. You're a bunch of cowards, a bunch of shameless cowards. What right does a bunch of shameless cowards have to preach before of us? Do you see the medal on my chest? It's what I got in exchange for saving 3 million people, alongside many martial artists, risking our lives to do so. Do you know its weight? Haha, you don't. You're like leeches. You leech the blood of all the martial artists who risk their lives on the front line. You do not even have the right to stand here and talk to me today, because you are not worthy. Boom. Lin Feng's voice was thunderous. As soon as his voice fell, he moved in an instant. His killing intent surged, and his aura condensed to its peak. The power in his entire body erupted. The 3 spiral forces contained more than 1,400 tons of strength. Even from afar, the Inhumans from 2 generations of the Zhang family could feel the terrifying power of Lin Feng's punch. Their expressions changed drastically. Lin Feng's rebukes seemed to have struck their hearts hard. Their minds were already in disarray, and now they had to face Lin Feng's extremely terrifying punch. There was no skill, no technique, just a direct punch. This was a punch of fury from Lin Feng. These Inhuman experts from the government faction could quietly enjoy a cozy life in air-conditioned rooms. How could they know the hardships of martial artists fighting at the front line? What was even more intolerable was that they also used their privileges, the name of justice, and the so-called law to protect their interests. They did not care about the rights and interests of martial artists who risked their lives at the front line at all. These cowards and vermin. Lin Feng even felt killing intent towards them, which was how he had thrown such a punch. The expressions of the Inhumans from 2 generations of the Zhang family changed drastically. Although Elder Zhang and the second generation of Inhuman had attained the Inhuman state for a long time, they had always remained at the first level of the metamorphic realm. This was their limit. How could someone from the first level of metamorphic realm withstand a punch of fury from Lin Feng that contained over 1,400 tons of strength? Astral power erupted. Innate abilities erupted. The Inhumans from 2 generations of the Zhang family roared repeatedly, unleashing all their power in a frenzy in an attempt to block this earth-shattering punch from Lin Feng. How strong was the eruption of 99 strands of astral power? Lin Feng had not known, but he knew now. Elder Zhang did not hesitate at all. Faced with Lin Feng's strength of over 1,400 tons, he chose to unleash his astral power in a frenzy to defend himself at all costs. Buzz. The 99 strands of astral power instantly acted on Elder Zhang's body, forming a dense net of astral power on the surface of his body. Coupled with the power of his essence, his defense could be said to be powerful to the extreme. Elder Zhang had never been so passive before. However, the power that Lin Feng had unleashed with all his might just now was enough to suffocate him even from afar. How could this come from only just breaking the genetic lock? It was perhaps on par with even those second-level metamorphic realm experts. Lin Feng's figure was like a cannonball as he blasted straight at the Inhumans from 2 generations of the Zhang family. He also saw the 2 of them putting up all their defenses, but what did that matter? He looked down from above and suddenly threw a punch. It was as if Mount Tai was crushing down. His entire being transformed into a beam of white light, and he smashed the Inhumans from 2 generations of the Zhang family down with a punch. However, this was not the end. The 2 of them landed hard on the ground, creating a huge pit. Lin Feng charged down like a falling meteor. Bang, 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 bang. Punches rained down. Every punch unleashed all his strength, shaking the 2 of them so much that they were almost about to blood. They had astral power protecting their bodies. As long as the astral power did not disperse, the 2 of them were almost invincible. This was the uniqueness of metamorphic realm martial artists. Astral power was the most important thing, and even innate abilities were secondary to it. Back outside Dragonlith City, those Inhuman experts could hold out for so long even under the siege of the Screwworm demons, actually also because they had astral power protecting their bodies. As long as the astral power did not disperse, they would not be defeated. But now, with a single punch from Lin Feng, even if he could not scatter the astral power of the Inhuman experts from 2 generations of the Zhang family, the terrifying shockwave still made the 2 of them very uncomfortable. Could it be that even with their physique and their genetically restructured bodies after a life transition, they were somehow still unable to withstand the shock from Lin Feng's raw power? Time and time again, Lin Feng pressed the 2 Inhuman beings to the ground like punching sandbags, creating a huge pit. The 2 of them struggled to resist, but the force that struck Lin Feng was like melting clay. There was no reaction at all. Actually, it was not completely useless. Lin Feng had also endured countless blows. However, he had the undying characteristic this bit of injury was nothing and he could recover from it in the blink of an eye. In a head-on clash, he was not afraid of anyone. Previously, when facing the 4 metamorphic realm martial artists from the law enforcement team, Lin Feng had also relied on pure strength. Even if he could not disperse their astral power, he could still injure them from the shock thump. After suffering countless hits, the Inhumans from 2 generations of the Zhang family could not help but spit out a mouthful of blood. They had lost, and in such a straightforward and humiliating manner at that. They were severely trounced by Lin Feng. It was the loss of all dignity for them. Even if they did not die, they would no longer have any dignity in Stone City in the future. This scene stunned everyone. Actually, the Zhang family had made adequate preparations today. They had sent people from the police station to take Zhang Hui away long ago. Moreover, they had deliberately stayed behind until Lin Feng came. In reality, they wanted to prove a fact in front of Lin Feng. Zhang Hui was in the wrong, but he had already turned himself in. There were laws to punish him, and Lin Feng had no right to interfere. They even felt that with the strength of the 2 of them, it would not be a problem for them to hold off Lin Feng for a while. The vice captains of the law enforcement team were also following behind Lin Feng. At that time, Lin Feng would definitely be the one at a disadvantage. But in the end, perhaps they had really been at ease for too long. They had led comfortable lives in cities at the home front and enjoyed all sorts of privileges. They had long forgotten about the mortal combat of martial artists. Compared to the inhuman experts who had been fighting dire beasts and demons at the front line, they were just far inferior. Hence, when they encountered Lin Feng, who was much stronger than ordinary first-level metamorphic realm martial artists, they could only be severely trounced by him. There was nothing they could do. Lin Feng, stop. Finally, to the inhumans from 2 generations of the Zhang family, the short dozen seconds or so felt like an eternity. The 2 vice captains of the law enforcement team caught up. Seeing that Lin Feng was actually fighting again, and with the inhumans from 2 generations of the Zhang family at that, the 2 of them had a headache. Swoosh! Lin Feng stood up and stared coldly at the 2 third-level metamorphic realm martial artists. Without a doubt, these 2 people were much stronger than the inhumans from 2 generations of the Zhang family. If a third-level metamorphic realm martial artist reached the peak, they would have 9,999 strands of astral power alone. Lin Feng had no confidence in dispersing their astral power at all. Moreover, this astral power could not just only be used for defense but also for explosive offense. Even just the eruption of 100 strands of astral power was much stronger than the full power of a peak first-level metamorphic realm martial artist. What, you want to attack me? Lin Feng stood with his hands behind his back. The dazzling Hero of Humanity medal was still hanging on his chest, as if it was reminding everyone that he was a hero of humanity, and what it meant to attack a hero of humanity. Captain Xia also had a headache, but seeing the miserable state of the inhumans from 2 generations of the Zhang family, he couldn't just ignore it. He was already on good terms with the inhumans from 2 generations of the Zhang family. After all, they were both inhuman experts of the government faction in Stone City. Lin Feng, Yushan is not dead. What exactly are you trying to do? Yushan is not dead, but the culprit who plotted against Yushan is Zhang Hui. You want to stop me from killing him too? Zhang Hui has already turned himself in. He has been arrested by the police. Naturally, there will be a fair and legal judgment. You are not allowed to interfere. Haha. A fair judgment? You inhuman experts who enjoy all kinds of privileges have never been on the battlefield. How can I trust you? This is the administrative right that the government should exercise. You can't mess around. Lin Feng, as long as you step down, everything will be fine. However, if you persist in your wrongdoings, it won't do you any good. Lin Feng did not say anything else. Both parties were on different sides, and neither could convince the other. The inhumans from 2 generations of the Zhang family were not dead. They were not that fragile. However, their gazes were very grim. After this time, they were completely antagonistic with Lin Feng. Both parties also belonged to different factions and were not afraid of each other at all. However, this was Stone City where the government faction was the strongest. With these 2 third-level metamorphic realm martial artists present, it would be very difficult for Lin Feng to kill Zhang Hui. Thus, both parties fell into a stalemate. This scene even attracted the attention of the other ordinary people in the villa. Looking at the miserable state of the inhumans from 2 generations of the Zhang family, when had ordinary people ever seen the inhuman experts of the Zhang family in such a sorry state? Captain Xia could not keep confronting Lin Feng here, but he could not attack either. He was also very frustrated. Hence, he immediately reported the situation here to the legate. Lin Feng naturally knew that this was the territory of the government faction. Just the law enforcement team alone had several metamorphic realm martial artists, let alone the legate who was a divine realm expert. Once the legate intervened, it would be even harder for him to kill Zhang Hui. However, if the law enforcement team could call in reinforcements, could he not do the same?